Okay, so we just have a couple of questions prepared, most of the ones that we already emailed you. So the first question is just if you could say a little bit about what heritage linguistics is.
Well, heritage linguistics is a combination of psycholinguistics, theoretical linguistics, and sociolinguistics. And traditionally, heritage languages have been at the focus of sociolinguistics. People were trying to see what the social conditions are in which you see heritage speakers. But just recently, people started paying more attention to the actual structural change in heritage languages, trying to use that material to inform linguistic theory. But in order to get more of that material, you need to study these people using psycholinguistic methods. And that's where psycholinguistics comes in. So I would say heritage linguistics is at the intersection of those three fields. Sociolinguistics, where heritage languages used to be traditionally, psycholinguistics, which gives us mass data and good ways of experimentation, and theoretical linguistics, which looks at these languages and establishes what kind of grammar they have. So if I haven't answered, just give me a follow-up question.
Could you just maybe say something about why you feel like now is the time that we need to study this?
Well, I think the time was always there. So now is the time just because we recognize this phenomenon, which is a subset of bilingualism. It's a particular case in bilingualism. Bilingualism has always existed. And incomplete learning, where people were switching from the home language to the dominant language, has also existed all the time. But now we're just much more aware of that. And I think the societal pressures have become slightly different because there are more and more people who go to college or even in high school start relearning their home language. So there's a little more of kind of validation of that from the society. But other than that, I think we're just very lucky that we're in this moment. It's not that we made it arrive, rather it happened and we were there.
So would you say that since in research it's been found that there is a certain cognitive advantage to being bilingual and using two languages on a daily basis, do you think that heritage bilinguals benefit from this in a special way? How are their experiences different from those of active bilinguals?
I think that the general idea that there is a bilingual advantage has become a little too, how should I say that? It's a little overblown. In other words, we know that there are certain advantages, but I think that we're so excited that they exist that we're ready to overlook any absence of advantage. So I think we have to be much more careful in looking at what the advantages are, controlling for the socioeconomic status, which hasn't been done very, very well so far. You know, a lot of bilinguals we study belong to a fairly high socioeconomic status group, which means that we may be overlooking something. But so all that said, there may be some advantages, which are typically associated with executive function. And those advantages are present also in heritage speakers, although they're not active bilinguals. An open question is whether or not those heritage speakers who are less fluent, less proficient, also have this advantage. We just don't know, and this is something that needs to be researched. In order to do that, you need to do more brain imaging studies, which are, of course, in their infancy, and we need to see how heritage speakers do on relearning. This is where we have some data, and we look at how heritage speakers, where college students go into classrooms and relearn their home language. We only see two advantages. We see the advantage in phonology and pronunciation, and we see minimal lexical advantage. We don't find any advantage in grammar or in morphology. And so this needs to be explored. The fact that the languages are selective tells us something about the structure of heritage grammars, taking us back to what you're saying about heritage linguistics.
So would you say that since phonology is always the first thing that sort of gets lost, and people who are not bilingual, I mean, the older they get, the harder it is for them to learn new phonemes in foreign languages. So you would say that these heritage bilinguals do have that sort of advantage that they will always be able to acquire native-like fluency if they were to learn it later on?
Well, you mean to relearn, right?
Right, relearn it.
I don't know. I think that they will become what's called near natives. They will probably be close to natives, but if we look closely at their phonology, they sound much better than any second language learner, but they do not sound native. And there have been studies of heritage speakers as well as studies of active bilinguals. Like the most famous one is by Flege, where they showed that the vowel and the consonant space used by bilinguals is different from the spaces used by monolinguals in each of those languages. Likewise, if you play a very short clip of a heritage speaker to a native speaker, they immediately identify them as heritage. So there is a heritage accent. The question you're asking is whether or not this heritage accent could be somehow overcome. And we don't know because we've never followed on that. My prediction is that they will end up being just as active bilinguals whose spaces, both in vocalic and consonantal systems, will be a little off compared to monolingual speakers. Yeah, but you know, on the bright side, they will definitely be better than L2s.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how do you see this heritage languages in general and also the research on heritage languages develop in the future? And will people be able to benefit from it more? Is there going to be more work done to sort of help these people?
I think that in terms of helping these people, we need to build more bridges with the, excuse me, with the teaching profession, because until very recently, people who teach languages all thought of heritage speakers as kind of a nuisance. And there has been this double standard where a second language learner was always celebrated, no matter how little they knew, whereas heritage speakers are always somehow chastised and chewed because, you know, they make a tiny mistake and everyone's very happy because it's almost like, you know, they're out to get them. So this doesn't create a good environment to motivate these people. So what you need is to get rid of the double standard and this perception that the glass is always half full for L2 learners and half empty for heritage speakers, because they certainly know a lot. So if we can tell the teachers what heritage speakers know and how well they know that, and we can somehow inform the teaching of a particular language to a heritage classroom, that would be a huge contribution from linguists or psycholinguists, because we know what these people know and what they don't know, and we don't see them as somehow deficient, we just see them as different. So I think the big step would be to tell people who teach them that they're not deficient, again, they're different. So that's kind of on the practical side. And I think there are some preliminary steps in this direction, because people have been listening. I had the annual Heritage Language Institute where we tried to bring as many professors who teach languages or professors of practice so that they could see that, you know, we celebrate these people rather than hate them. So we're now in our 7th year and I see more and more interest, so I'm hopeful, but I'm always hopeful. In terms of what we want to do linguistically, I think that there are two major issues. One is to find a way to assess the variance that we see in heritage population, because there are some heritage speakers who can barely understand something, and there are some heritage speakers who are almost close to native speakers, so there's a continuum. We have made progress in acknowledging the continuum, but we haven't really figured out how to place people on that continuum and associate that with different divergent grammars. So that's the first step. The second step I see is in conducting neuroimaging of heritage speakers. That hasn't been done, and so as we progress in our understanding of language neuroimaging in general, we have to include not just regular bilinguals, but also heritage speakers, and that will tell us a little more as to how active bilinguals they are.
Very interesting. So just sort of to conclude a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about your background, what languages you speak, and how you got involved in this research on heritage linguistics?
So my first language is Russian, and I came to this country about 25 years ago, and I was very surprised to hear the Russian spoken by some heritage speakers. It was very obvious to me that these people speak differently, so I thought, oh, that must have been studied all over the place, so I just have to read up on that. And I started looking and nothing has been And that kind of prompted me to start looking at the linguistic side of those people, because I'm not a sociolinguist. So all I saw was sociolinguistic work. And then because I do work on cross-linguistic variation and study different languages, my immediate question was whether or not we can look at one group of heritage speakers and compare them to somebody else. And that's why I started doing cross-linguistic work on heritage. So I've been very lucky because you see heritage speakers wherever you go. I spent a lot of time in Southern California at UC San Diego, where I dealt with Tagalog speakers, Vietnamese speakers, lots of Persian speakers, some Korean, some Russian. When I moved to Boston, I lost my Persian population. There are no heritage Persian speakers, but we still have a lot of heritage Korean, heritage Chinese, Mandarin and Cantonese. We've been doing heritage Russian, and we've recently added heritage Spanish. So I feel like by looking at those various languages, I can pick and choose phenomena I would like. But whatever I do, I always look at the intersection of syntax and semantics, because that's my specialty. And the question I want to ask is whether or not there are certain phenomena in heritage grammars which are resilient, do not undergo change, and certain phenomena that are weaker and for some reason fall apart. If we find what those phenomena are, then we can start predicting what the heritage grammar is going to look like, because I think that's one of the major goals that we should all set ahead of ourselves.
So would you say that there is something that sort of, even though all these languages are very different, especially if you're comparing a Cantonese speaker to, let's say, a French speaker, they're just completely different from the structure, like the structure of the language. Would you say there is something that all of these speakers have in common, something that is especially hard for them, or that comes very easy to them?
Yeah, I think the two things that are common are the difficulties with anything that's optional. So if there are certain phenomena that look optional, or we call optional, and heritage speakers do not really understand the fine details between choosing between the options, that's always very difficult. So you always have difficulties in optionality. A subset of those phenomena are the phenomena that happen at the intersection of syntax and discourse. And that has given rise to so-called interface hypothesis, which says that only those phenomena that are at the interface are difficult. But if you look closely at that hypothesis, you notice that they particularly looked at null pronominals, which are optional, of course, and they looked at some topic focus marking, which is also optional. So this is again the optionality. So if we start from that assumption and just look at the phenomena that are optional in a given grammar, then we can explore it in heritage speakers, because what I'm saying is a hypothesis. But it's a powerful hypothesis. If I'm right, great. If I'm wrong, we can test it very easily. The second thing that we find in heritage speakers is that they tend to reevaluate particular categorical distinctions within grammars. And they go from what we call the multi-valued opposition, where there's a feature, and you can say that this feature is either present or absent, or there are two values to a given feature. So that would be the essence of the multi-valued opposition. Heritage speakers don't like those, they like single-valued oppositions. And so what they do is they take an opposition that would be normally multi-valued and reevaluate it as a single-valued one, where there's a feature and then there's nothing under specification. And we start seeing more and more of that. So this is something I'm going to talk about today, this morning. And as we adopt it as a strong hypothesis, we can again look at a lot of categorical distinctions within the baseline language and see if those distinctions get reevaluated as single-valued oppositions in heritage languages. If that's the case, that tells us that there is this very powerful mechanism of categorization that they all share, which has something to do with, let's say, recessive use of language. There is a grammar urge, if you will, because if you categorize things, that's basically making grammars. But this grammar urge is using a very economical mechanism, different from what speakers who are fully fluent would do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.